Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here for part 2 of a 4-part series as we sort of make our way around Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Universe? Galaxy?
Galaxy. Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
What a great name for a writer of such a mundane book.
Douglas Adams?
Yeah.
We're already starting off on this foot?
I'm going to start calling him Adam Douglas.
Okay, whatever makes you happy. This was part 2 of our read-along of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We have read through chapters 19 of this great text, this piece of literature, this fine, well-awarded book.
You know, what chapter stands out the most to you?
We're going to talk about it. So let me break it down a little bit here, because this is what's going on. It's a little confusing. It's a bizarre book. It really is. So Arthur and Ford are saved by Zaphod with the power of improbability. And we are whisked into an adventure with him, his robot Marvin, which, if you hate this series, I really think I thought Marvin was going to be the one for you.
What?
I thought you would love Marvin.
Marvin is just completely indicative of the book so far.
Moving on. And also with them is a girl Arthur once met at a party. She goes by the name Trillian now, who apparently Zaphod picked up and whisked away into space. Now they're just doing their thing together. And they're going to find the lost planet of Margrathia, I believe. That's how I pronounce
Magrathia.
it. Magrathia. Do you like Magrathia? This is
Magrathia.
a lost, mythical, legendary planet that basically creates planets. And
Margaretville.
Margaritaville. They're going to Margaritaville. And through improbability again, they have safely arrived and they're going to begin their journey. Adrian, where do you want to start?
Where would you like to start?
Do you have any good quotes you would like to highlight?
Good quotes? No, there's no good quotes.
In those days, spirits were brave, the stakes were high, men were real men, women were real women, and small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri were small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri.
That's actually one of my talking points.
What? How is that a talking point?
Well, did you have anything else to do?
No, let's just start right there. Let's go with that. Let's talk about that.
Far back in the mists of ancient time, in the great and glorious days of the former galactic empire, life was wild, rich, and largely tax-free. Mighty starships plied their way between exotic suns, featuring adventure and reward among the furthest reaches of the galactic space. In those days, spirits were brave, the stakes were high, men were real men, women were real women, and small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri were real small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri. And all dared to brave unknown terrors, to do mighty deeds, to boldly split infinitives that no man had split before, and thus was the empire forged. That's funny.
Good.
That's funny.
Good. There's moments of humor in here for you, finally.
That's one paragraph through 138 pages.
It is a funny text, it is. And it's a little ridiculous, I will give you that, but it's ridiculous for the point of being ridiculous. And
Do you know why that's funny?
Why is that funny?
Because the entire book is leading you one way, and that sort of directs you the other, that tugs you the other direction. Because this is a sort of classic science fiction form of writing, right?
It is.
This gets back to that, where the rest of the book is very, very, very British.
Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away.
And
It's
this,
very sci-fi.
And not only does this take that standard sci-fi, old-school, classic form of writing, it throws in jokes on the cliches included therein. Men were real men, women were real women, and small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri were real small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri. What's the other one? Split infinitives that no man had dared to split before.
Well, I'm glad you find a little bit of enjoyment out of it so far. I'm glad we found something, a little gem.
I can quantify why I like it.
Okay.
That's why it is likable.
Now, there's a wonderful scene as
That's
well.
why it is funny, not silly. Why are you looking at me like I'm attacking you? We had this discussion before.
Anyway, there's also a scene, I'm off on a rant now because like I have to defend this. There's also the scene where one of the missiles is turned into a whale due to the improbability drive, and the whale is basically falling through the sky, and he goes through, I am whale, this is ground. That's not funny to you?
No, that's not funny.
I enjoy that.
That's just silly.
That's ridiculous, and it's wonderful.
It's just silly. It's stupid.
So the idea of the improbability drive, and a point that I'd like to get into this a little bit, it kind of starts tackling a little bit of the idea of fate versus free will. If you had the option to basically change your fate, you can. But in true Douglas Adams fashion, you can't just change your fate. It's a crapshoot. You can push that button, but you don't know what's going to happen. So it gets into that argument of, is there really any free will? Is this all just fate? Is it destined that that button's going to, do whatever it does? Because we get the scene where Arthur decides, as they're being chased by the missile, what do we got to lose? We're going to die anyway. Let's roll the dice. Give it a push. That's a good scene. You didn't get anything from that?
Why was he the only one that thought to do that?
Because Arthur is the only one who's completely misplaced in this. Throughout even this part here, again, we just get Arthur, he just wants to go back home. He doesn't care for this adventure. He's literally on the, adventure of a lifetime. From a science fiction standpoint, this is it, man. If a science fiction fan got the, opportunity to zoom off into space and do all these wonderful things, that's a dream come true. For Arthur, he just wants to be at home. He is a man who is just thrown into this situation and has to therefore react to it. But he reacts so dryly and so lackadaisical, it's funny. Everybody else is panicking. Everybody else knows they're going to die. Arthur's like, oh, well, why not? What else we got to lose? And he pushes the button. No enjoyment whatsoever in that.
None.
Oh my God.
None.
I don't know why.
What do you mean you don't know why?
I
All
enjoy
of those
it.
characters knew that button was there.
They did. But nobody wanted to push it on the chance that, what could it do? We don't know. Arthur's the only one who's just level-headed. The point is like, well, we're going to die anyway. Might as well. Nothing?
Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Got anything you want to talk about then?
No.
No, nothing at all?
No.
So, okay, Marvin. We don't like the idea of Marvin, the self-loathing robot?
No.
No?
No.
This is a creature who is created by man, a emotionless creature. Robots do not have emotions. They do not have thought process, but Marvin does have thought process and emotion. And Marvin's emotion is self-loathing. He hates himself for being himself.
Again, very British.
It's very British. It's funny.
It could be funny.
And do you know who voices Marvin in the movie? It's perfect.
No idea.
Alan Rickman. The perfect voice. No?
Awesome.
Okay.
Far out.
Okay. I don't know what else to get into here, because you just seem like you're going along with the pages. Just,
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. I found one thing that's sort of interesting, and I have to draw completely extraneous to the text to make it interesting.
Well, if we're talking a little bit about, how that was very classic science fiction, it was very classic hard science fiction, the stereotype of this, this is very much the opposite of that. We have all the elements of a good classic science fiction story. We have the aliens, we have the man going on the space adventure, the spaceships, the exploration. But it's done so in a fashion where it's not that stereotypical, what's coming science fiction.
Right, which is what makes the one paragraph from the one chapter funny.
Okay. I think that's a good thing, though. It's different. It's innovative. It gets away from that classic science fiction and makes something new. It makes something of its own. It is ridiculous, don't get me wrong. That's the point of the book, is being ridiculous.
Are you also a Jackson Pollock fan?
Not that I know of. I guess I should start being.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So what? So what?
Okay. I don't know how to continue to further this and sell this to you. I mean, it's...
No, don't do that. Just talk about what you like. Do you have any talking points from the literature? What great literature is there to be found in here, Dalton? Just surprise me.
Well, I have slung some points at you, and I get no feedback on it, so we just moved forward. I will give you this, though. I will yield to you in one aspect.
Okay.
I do enjoy this book. This is an enjoyable read. It's fun. I find it funny. I think a lot of people would agree with me that this is a funny text. I'm going to be inclined to say now, most people are going to disagree with you that it's not.
So how are you yielding to me? What?
Looking at this from a literary perspective, breaking this down, looking for the literature, looking for the tropes, trying to find what's going on, there's not a lot that can be done.
And maybe there is, and I'm just not catching it.
It's possible.
Maybe there is, but
It's
you
possible.
enjoy it too much to catch it.
But what's going on with this is it's kind of taking that away. We're going along for the ride. We are Arthur in this situation. We're slung into this story. We're just here for the ride. And we're looking at it from the everyman's perspective. It's the idea of, again, the man who gets slung into space and just doesn't care. He just wants his normal, mundane life. But he's getting everything but the mundane.
But we're not even feeling that.
You're not feeling that at all?
No.
Like when he wakes up and he's like, does the ship serve tea? And he goes to the vending machine. And he gets something that's kind of similar to tea, but it's not tea. Like he just wants to wake up and have his tea. Arthur's the victim.
Again, very British.
It's fair. Arthur's both the victim and the hero of the story.
I often the hero is the victim of the story.
Okay.
But I don't care about him as the victim, and I don't care about him as the hero.
So I think your biggest problem with this is not being invested in the character. You're not invested in any characters.
Or the story. I mean, there's nothing going on. Okay, so what was the last thing that happened?
I believe they had just transfigured the whale, the missile into the whale. The whale splatted on the earth, with the Margaritaville, Margaretha.
McGrathia.
And
You've seen the movie, haven't you?
Once. I didn't care for the movie.
How do you not remember how that's pronounced then?
I've seen it once.
You remembered one of the characters' actors.
Well, it's Alan Rickman. But anyway, so they've arrived on the planet now, and it is assumed we're going to adventure. We're going to explore.
It is assumed that we're going to adventure, we're going to explore. But the last sentence you said was, the missile was transformed into a whale.
Yes.
If you had never read this book before, where would you think the story was going?
I don't know.
That is a bad thing.
Is it though?
Yes. So one of the great joys of reading is being subversed.
Okay.
Having an expectation on what's going to happen and either being right about that is often what you want from like a mystery novel, right? I think I'm right about who's the killer. Or having your expectations subverted because you have an idea of where we're going and you were surprised.
Okay.
It is not okay, so if I throw a water balloon at you right now, does that feel like surprise?
Oh yeah.
No. If I give you
I'm not expecting it.
I think that's a different thing.
Okay.
I think like in the nuance of human emotion, I think it's a different thing to be surprised versus the where the hell did that come from emotion.
Okay.
Right? If it was your birthday and I got you an autographed copy of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It's a surprise.
That's a surprise.
But a water balloon to the face out of nowhere is as well.
I think that we might not. Okay, so if you're hungry and I give you food, what have I done?
You fed me.
If you're thirsty and I give you water, what have I done?
Quenched my thirst.
There's no word for it.
Okay.
Right? I think that there is no word for the what the hell expression in English.
Okay.
But surprise doesn't quite get there.
So is that what makes you uncomfortable with this text? Is this what pushes the text away from you? Is there is really no tracking method? There is no way to expect what's coming next because it is absurd.
And oh my goodness, man, that's the point of it. Like, it's like so random, bro. Like, it's so awesome.
I don't think that's it.
Okay.
I am not, well, I think that is an element of it. But if I were invested in the character, I would be fearing what is next for him or her.
Okay.
Right? I'm not invested in the character.
So
I don't care what that next what the hell moment is.
Like maybe the reason I thought you would actually get behind this is you are basically Arthur in this story. You know that, right?
What?
You're just the man going about his business who enjoys his routine and like isn't looking for adventure, but one day Adrian gets sucked up into space and is forced to react. But
Oh
all
my God,
Adrian
I love
wants
the story now.
Adrian wants to just go back to his apartment and do his thing. Like I'm not sure. Like there's so much here that like
we don't even have the option to go back to Earth.
okay.
Like
So it's tragic.
Don't get me wrong. The only place I can see this story going is this improbability drive somehow gets them back to Earth 2.0.
Okay.
Or gets them into a timeline where Earth is there, and Arthur gets to go back about his day. That's the only place I can sort of see this going that would have some sort of payoff. He goes back to Earth and doesn't like it.
Okay. And Adams has taken this idea of the improbability drive, which is kind of a cheap trick here, just being like, well, we can change anything we want. But he's basically expanded upon it, and he's utilizing that for the mechanics of the literature.
Right, but that happens in the middle of the novel.
Okay.
Right?
Not really the middle. I mean, it's introduced early on. It's this, great magical starship that can do all these great things. That's chapter like 4 or 5 when we first meet Zaphod during the interview. But it doesn't reach that point until about right before the middle, where the idea of the improbability drive is introduced.
It becomes fruitful.
It becomes fruitful. It does. And we also have the genuine improbability as well. The girl that Arthur met at that party, the girl that Arthur has been pining over, here she is on this spaceship. The man that she absconded with was the galactic president. He was Zaphod. So we have the idea of manufactured improbability and just pure happenstance probability of life. So, like, it is a cheap trick in the literature, but most authors would utilize this as just a cheap trick. J.K. Rowling would have the magic wand that just does whatever. It can fix anything. The improbability drive is the brunt of this here, where we don't know what's going to happen. It could be good, it could be bad.
Yeah, I just don't see the payoff.
Okay.
I don't see the payoff.
Okay. It is strange. It is obscure. And I will give you, it is dry British humor. Straight up dry British humor. And like, I don't know if that's what's off-putting you about this so much, or if it's just you're not getting what you want from the characters, you're not identifying with anything. It's an enjoyable read, though, when you kind of just let yourself go with it. Like, when you sit down and try to think about it, it's just going to piss you off because you can't. The whole premise is absurd.
Right, but I don't know. I just don't know that it is enjoyable. This is a series of the same joke over and over again.
Okay.
This is, like I said, Family Guy. This is just one random thing after another.
Well, we had this argument earlier on. That's also Monty Python. It's just the same jokes.
There's more going on with Monty Python.
Why is there more going on with Monty Python than there is Douglas Adams?
Because the historical context of a lot of the things that happen their way into Monty Python.
Okay.
The random French castle in the middle of England? Yeah, that's a funny thing.
Okay. So if the Spanish Inquisition shows up, does it work?
No, we're not on Earth.
Okay.
Do you mean here or in Monty
this
Python?
book here?
No, it doesn't. No,
It doesn't work for you.
Neither would spam.
Spam doesn't work for you.
No,
here.
not here.
I don't understand how there is this disconnect where you love and you are passionate about Monty Python, but this same style of this dry, absurd humor isn't working.
Monty Python requires context.
Okay.
A lot of Monty Python happens in the form of skits, right?
It's a sketch, yeah.
You get invested with the characters in the movies. The sketches, you require one conceit and a turnaround. That's what a sketch comedy is. One conceit and a turnaround. This is a novel. Don't get me wrong, it's not a huge novel. It's not very long.
It's a very short novel.
It's a novel. There's work to be done here. I have to invest to sit down and read this.
Okay.
I expect something to have a payoff. I expect my time to be treated. I expect to earn more through the novel than I would at an hourly job.
Okay.
Right?
So let's talk about a little bit of the factual
If I could
things for this here.
choose sitting down and reading this for an hour or earning what I make at work for an hour, I would take work.
Okay. So the idea of this planet that we're traveling to, the planet that creates planets, obviously we're building to something here. Otherwise we wouldn't be searching it out. And it is a very much an Atlantis-style myth. They're talking about how it doesn't actually exist, things like that. But Zaphod is going there for a reason, for a purpose, and that is his drive. That is what is going to get him there.
Didn't even pick up on it.
Didn't? Not at all?
Well, I mean, he wanted to find it.
Okay.
Right? I picked up on that.
There's got to be a reason for wanting to find it.
There's not a reason for anything in this novel.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess we'll see where it goes from here with that.
I've got one talking point. Magrathia and the British obsession with Egypt.
Okay.
When Zaphod wants to find this planet, He wants to do it for, what did he say? Wealth and fame, right?
Okay.
That was one of the big allures to being one of these people who went and discovered something in Egypt. And Adams was born in 1952. Tutmania was from the 20s, right? You know Tutmania?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows sort of. So anyone that doesn't know about Tutmania, they found King Tut's tomb, and it re-sparked a grand interest in Egypt, the likes of which the only other example I have from history is the Renaissance being so infatuated with Greco-Roman stuff,
Okay.
with classicism. But it was huge.
It was.
People were bringing back mummies. People were grinding up mummies, thinking that it was medicine.
It was a big deal.
Big deal. Great big deal. So Adams being born in the 50s is sort of like today something is as stupid and ridiculous and uninteresting as someone today being sort of obsessed with like hippie culture. Because
Who does that?
yeah, I had to throw that out there. But I think that's sort of the zeitgeist there.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That, and this is another one of the things that we run into sometimes. We bring up talking points like this and sort of the zeitgeist of someone's life, something that they would have been conscious of, and someone thinks that we're diagnosing the book and telling you what you have to read into the book now. It's not what I'm doing at all. All I'm saying is
That's what you're getting through your reading.
the zeitgeist of today, this hippie renaissance, right? People doing stupid stuff like wearing tie-dye and bandanas and
Bastards.
doing stupid stuff with their hair. In the 50s, that sort of nostalgia, and the 50, his childhood, that sort of nostalgia would have been for Tutmania.
Okay. And the idea when they're arriving upon the planet, the uncharted planet, the lost, the unknown, that's still heavily defended millions of years later with warning signs, it is very Egyptian. It is.
Very
it's
Egyptian.
a good point.
The whole deal of curses. This will be cursed. King Tut was cursed. Everyone who went into that tomb died. This is so for me in my life, if I ever get to the point where, now, ironically, I'm writing about aliens,
Okay.
it's because I am hearkening back to my childhood and one of the big zeitgeists of my life. I was so into UFOs as a kid.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was so into UFOs as a kid. It's just interesting to think and wonder if Douglas Adams was one of those kids that was caught up in, obviously not Egyptology, but when I was a kid, that era was like the 60s.
Yeah.
And the whole, one of the big things that you could find books about, there would be something on TV about, that you could hear radio, I can't remember what it was, some weird AM radio station was Roswell,
Okay.
right? So there's always, ideas recirculate,
That's fair. And I think reading this in that light, it's not a bad reading of it. It does fit a lot of the tropes that we're looking at here. We'll just see what comes of it. Let's see if there is a curse of this planet, and we'll see if there's any more Egyptology. Is that the correct phrase for that?
Yeah, Egyptology, Egyptmania,
Okay.
Tutmania.
I like Tutmania. We'll see if there's any more Tutmania coming forward with this.
They were
Because
kings of this planet or something like that.
we're going to be
Kings
back
are gods.
next week with the last bit.
If there's an ibis walking around, maybe I'll have a newfound
Okay.
love
I'm
for this series, but I doubt it.
I'm going to try to do a little research next week. I'm going to dig into some actual criticism on this, and I'm going to try to find something more for you. And we'll see if we can make next week a better week.
And hey, I hope you can find it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't want to sound like I'm just shitting on this because I don't like you or anything you like.
That's just part of it.
Yeah, it's absolutely an element, but it's, I don't want to come here and just, the only novel I've ever wanted to sit down and talk bad about was The Road. Like I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. But I don't. There's nothing here for me so far. There's nothing here for me. And so this little thing, McGrathia as the British obsession with Egypt. That's sort of my favorite part about reading, is sort of linking ideas. And when you're sitting down at a typewriter and you're hammering something like this out, that idea might not even occur to you. You know what I mean? But it's something that manifests in your writing. I can't tell you how many of my stories I've written thinking, oh yeah, man, I got something original here. And I sit down and think, oh, well, this is something that happened to me in the 3rd grade, Okay. So that's sort of my favorite thing to do when reading. And I can't even make those connections here besides this one.
I think the best thing to do is try to bring in maybe some outside resources. It's something we don't often do with this channel. A lot of our Let's Read series is purely our interpretation of the text.
All of it is so far, or something that we've picked up. But if we picked it up in college, we make sure to cite it.
We always do. But I will see if I can maybe try to bring in a little literature behind this to see if maybe there's something I'm being blinded by, and there's something you're not picking up on that would help better explain this.
And I bet I'm absolutely correct.
But we will continue forward with that next week as we finish The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, the final bit of our read-along. So if you'd like to join us with that adventure through the galaxy, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Give this video a like as well, because I just sat here for 26 minutes getting yelled at, and it's fun. And if you'd like to help us create more content like this here on Strip Cover Lit, there's a link, as always, to our Patreon to be found in the description below.